Sweet the whispers in your ear whenever ember wanders near.
I mean, it's Brian Shapiro, so the man is a moron. This man, Brian Shapiro is a fucking idiot, okay? He is an absolute idiot. He is like literally one step above Hassan in terms of being an intelligent person, which is not much. So this get like any chance to see him get dumpstered on by people that are even marginally smarter than him, which isn't hard to do, is a glorious thing. So, and I love Warren Smith. Warren Smith, like his stuff is so great. He does a fantastic job of taking sequences where basically the SJRs just go off the fucking rails about everything, and he breaks it down into very clear-cut, easy to understand points of how this doesn't work and how this person is failing. Yes, and I know Craig is on Tim Pool's show right now. Yeah, I saw I was talking about that on Side Scrolls today. But anyway, let's take a look at this, and I'm kind of curious what he lies about. So let's see.
Brian Shapiro has returned to Tim Pool, and he makes the claim.
And sorry, I have to. Somehow, Brian Shapiro has returned. Sorry, I had to.
That Charlie Kirk's life should not be celebrated, and that he was spreading hate.
Charlie Kirk was not spreading hate.
I disagree.
Well, you would be wrong, because if you ever met the guy, like what they say about you, to the people in the comments saying you're hateful and you're bad.
You know, oh, he's already.
The
Hang
guy,
on.
like what they say about you, to the people in the.
Every time someone calls him out on his bullshit, he gets that squinty-eyed look. Like when when someone hits him with facts that he cannot answer, he always gets this stupid squinty-eyed face.
People in the comments saying you're hateful and you're bad, and I respond to all of them that if they met you and asked you to sit down for dinner, you would be nice to them.
Well, I have sat down with Brian Shapiro. Not sure I would say he was nice.
I think you're a very boring person to interview. I think you have no personality at all. You're not entertaining. You're not funny. You're ill-prepared. When I bring up topics like the Epstein files or other topics, even you on this show said, I'm sorry, I wasn't prepared for that. I think, and by the way,
I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you don't know. There's people in this.
This is what he does. This is his style. He did this with Warren's interview. He did this with Andrew Wilson's wife. I feel terrible. I keep blanking on her name. God, I keep blanking on Andrew's wife's name. Rachel, I think it was. Yeah, Rachel. Okay, the neurons fired for a second. Yeah, so yeah, he did this with Warren. He did this with Rachel Wilson when they had their interview. He literally just tries to steamroll everybody. He just rapid fire, nonstop talking and calls people idiots, calls them stupid, disparages them, and just steamrolls them and will not let the other person speak. Because if the other person speaks, they'll shove his head in a toilet and flush because they're smarter than him. And he knows this, so he keeps talking, rapid fire, won't stop, because the minute he does, it's over.
Industry, you've done their shows. People on the right, they've told me in private conversations, multiple people, that it was a brutal interview with you, that you're boring.
Are you willing to say like who?
I will ask I will ask them if it's okay with them. I was talking to one dude today that's a friend of mine, and he said it was one of the most brutal interviews he's ever done.
In other words, trust me, bro. He literally just did. Trust me, bro.
Because you have no personality.
I wouldn't say he hates me. I enjoyed talking to him. He was one of the few that's willing to have the conversation until he wasn't, until he banned me from the show. But while it lasted, it was good.
Well, I think it's really funny that people think you're really boring and you're a racist. I also think that's very funny. Very funny, Warren. It's very funny that all
this bother you so badly.
It's bothering me. I'm just proving the point that you're a liar.
This is extremely strange behavior.
Okay. I think your behavior is very strange. You know who I talk to on a regular basis?
Who?
Tim Pool. What would you say about him? He doesn't mind me saying that. I text him all the time.
In a strange way, we kind of got along at the same time. He's calling you all these names, but I'm not sure I would describe.
I think Warren is being generous here. Warren is not someone that will basically name call anybody. So I think Warren is being generous with his words, and I respect that. The fact is, Brian Shapiro doesn't like him. That's why he steamrolled him. That's why that he's absolutely being too kind, but that's just how Warren is. No, Brian Shapiro doesn't like him. Brian Shapiro absolutely was trying to steamroll him and not let him get a word in, and all he was doing was just insulting him the entire time. Leaf should debate Brian. Leaf debating Brian would go about the same route as Rachel debating Brian. Only the only difference is Brian Shapiro would basically spend the entire time just insulting Leaflet for being a VTuber, which Leaflet wouldn't care about that. I have no doubt. Leaflet would just be like, whatever, dude. But that's what a debate between Leaf and Brian would be, is he would spend the majority of the time making bullshit statements and then insulting Leaf for being a VTuber, claiming she's a coward, not showing her face, blah, blah, blah. That is literally what would happen during the entire debate. And name dropping, yeah, he'd try to name drop. He would attempt to name drop. Because you notice in the interview that he had with Warren, he didn't actually name drop. He said, I know people that have interviewed you that said the interview with you was brutal. And Warren said, who? And he's like, well, I'll ask them if I can drop their names, which translation, he didn't talk to anybody that said that to him.
Describe him as nice.
But I would ask people, what have I said that has been racist or misogynist? What have I said that takes...
well, dude, have you seen your debate with Rachel Wilson? Seriously. He was nothing but misogynistic to Rachel Wilson the entire debate. Half of his talking points was telling Rachel to go get in the kitchen and make Andrew a sandwich. That was like half his commentary during the debate with her. Yeah, like he was nothing but misogynistic to Rachel the entire time.
It's an entire group of people.
What has Charlie said?
Well, I
Let's
could go through.
baby.
I could go through a few things here, but I would say when it comes to Charlie, let's just start with the talk about the civil rights movement and Martin Luther King Jr. He thought the civil rights movement was terrible for America.
Was that racist? Charlie Kirk disagreeing with a law is different from Charlie Kirk not liking a group of...
Well, okay, so if that's where it ended, I would probably agree with you. But if we're going to talk about...
ends, right?
Okay, so when he said, when I get on a plane, if the pilot is black, should I be worried?
I've gone through this exact same one with Brian. Always goes the exact same way.
If you're going to claim we want this specific outcome, we already have a talent pool. All the people that want to be firefighters in this town have applied, but we don't have enough purple firefighters. Therefore, there are only two logical options that you have. Change the standards to accommodate them, or accept purple firefighters that would not otherwise become firefighters. Both are very bad ideas. Logically, it does not work.
Charlie Kirk never.
That basically what that's affirmative action. He's talking about affirmative action, and there's a reason why affirmative action went away. I believe one of the reasons being it was illegal, but they and so affirmative action went away. And yeah. Oh, he's complaining about DEI hiring. I'm aware of that, but DEI was the evolution of affirmative action. So while affirmative action was illegal, what DEI hiring did is, instead of saying we have to pick a insert minority candidate here, instead of saying we have to pick one over the others, we're going to drop the standards to meet the candidate that is the minority individual in order to hire them without saying that we were giving them preferential treatment. That's what I'm saying, and that's what Warren is saying. So I'm talking about how we are seeing the evolution of affirmative action. Originally it was affirmative action, which was we only have two, to use Warren's example, we have the firefighter candidates, and we only have two purple firefighter candidates. We need more purple firefighters. So either we hire the purple firefighters who are not qualified, or we drop the standards to meet the purple candidates' capabilities in order to hire them and thus meet our quota. So it's like affirmative action versus DEI. But they're two sides of the same coin.
Charlie Kirk never claimed that if you say a black pilot, that pilot is less qualified.
Let's be very clear here. I know he was talking about DEI, but let's be very clear here. There is no evidence to suggest that if you're a black pilot, you have any less hours than somebody who's white.
And that was his point.
That was his point.
His point was,
then why would you make that statement?
if you listen to
Because
the full,
I would make that statement to make that
So
point.
when you get on a plane, you're worried if the pilot's
See,
black or
because
white?
of DEI, you realize he was saying because of DEI, we are putting unqualified people in positions where they need
There
to
it
be
is.
qualified, and he's not okay. with
And here's my
Neither
point.
would I be okay
And
with
here's
that.
my retort to that, and here's my evidence. There is not a sliver of evidence that any
Okay.
black pilot, that any black pilots have less hours of training than a white pilot.
Anything short of hiring based upon merit will lead to flawed outcomes. And he
That makes no fucking sense. They're all saying that, you know, regardless of flying hours, just because a pilot has flight hours doesn't mean they're good at it. And what they're saying is through DEI hiring, you're putting unqualified candidates, which, let's be fucking real about this, with DEI hiring, it's basically non-white male. Let's be straight. When we're talking DEI hiring, we're talking about literally anybody that is not a straight white male. And so what the argument is that it basically, if it is a non-straight white male in that cockpit, there is a question of, was this person a DEI hire? The fact that saying that, oh, candidate minority X has the same amount of flight hours as this straight white male pilot doesn't make him any less. It's not a matter of ethnicity or skin color or even gender. It's the fact that, are they qualified? Because these companies are known to hire unqualified pilots or underqualified pilots that are not straight white males just to fill a quota. And then after they've been hired, then they can rack up a shit ton of flight hours. So his example of, saying a black pilot doesn't have as many flight hours as a white pilot is not the point. You can be a dog shit pilot and have the same 5,000 flight hours as the other, stereotypical white male pilot. Having hours doesn't mean you're good at it. Because as a pilot, you do have a co-pilot. And who's to say that co-pilot hasn't pulled that DEI hire's ass out of the fire when they fucked up, but they're still getting the recorded hours on their flight time. That's the point that's being made here, that Brian Shapiro is obviously deliberately ignoring.
was pointing out one of those flawed outcomes. It's as simple as that. Brian knows this. I've walked through it with him so many times. Real quick, the sponsor of this video is Gaia. Gaia is a streaming service dedicated to the evolution of consciousness, featuring videos on disclosure, ancient wisdom, and the nature of reality. What if
Do you want an untrained person to do your heart's adrenaline? It's not a question of being untrained. That's not what we're talking. We're not talking about being untrained. We're talking about being unqualified, underqualified, and not good at the job. That's what we're talking about here.
Disclosure isn't about waiting on an official announcement, but begins when your consciousness is ready to recognize what has been here all along. If reality is shaped by thoughts, frequency, and awareness, then disclosure is more than documents, footage, or confirmation from authority. The deeper disclosure happens within you. It happens when your mind opens to a reality bigger than the one you were trained to accept. And you can meet the unknown with curiosity, compassion, and cooperation. Because contact asks all of us to expand not only
Hey, yeah, this is an excellent point. If the DEI suspicion is applied only against non-whites, then wouldn't that be racism? Because it's not simply against white people. The DEI suspicion is not limited to non-white people. It is also levied against women, because women are women would also qualify under DEI as being like a quote unquote underrepresented group. So it's both ethnicity and gender. Effectively, anything that is not a straight white man. So Yeah, it's skin color, it's sexual orientation or sexual identity or gender is basically that covers DEI. Yes, it like DEI in and of itself. If this is the point I'm trying to make, yes, DEI in and of itself is both racist and sexist in nature. You are 100% correct. The racists are the DEIs, but they'll never accept that because that takes away their power. And DEI is all about obtaining and retaining power.
What we believe, but how we relate to ourselves, each other, and intelligences beyond our own. If contact is real, our community is far larger than we imagined. And the only way through what comes next is together. Visit Gaia.com to explore disclosure through the lens of consciousness and prepare your awareness to recognize contact as humanity enters its next chapter.
As it pertains to Charlie Kirk, he was not disparaging black people. His point was, Democrats have instituted a policy that creates a perception among people that the black pilots are less qualified. He doesn't want to think that way.
Charlie Kirk was pointing out that policies like this lead to people being treated differently based upon the color of their skin.
I'm going to be honest. I don't want people to treat me a certain way because of the color of my skin. I don't want you to feel sorry for me or give me more opportunity because I'm black. I would rather have the opportunities I have because I've made the decision to be there and sacrifice for it.
Great.
You don't care. You care so much about what Charlie Kirk had to say.
I think if you work hard in the United States of America, I agree with you. You should be able to.
So then
merit.
you agree. So you agree with what Charlie Kirk said?
No, I don't. I probably disagree with almost everything that Charlie Kirk stood for.
Which means he doesn't actually listen, which means he probably never listened to what Charlie Kirk said. anytime someone says something like that, that means that they don't actually listen to anything the other person says. You as a cognitive individual will never, I'm going to make a blanket statement here. You will never 100% disagree with anything anyone says. Maybe with a notable exception of an actual Nazi. And even then, there's like wiggle room because the whole concept of a broken clock strikes, a broken clock is right twice a day. It's like, I don't even know about Islam. It's like, I don't know the tenets about it, so I'm not going to speak on it. But like, okay, perfect example, Asmongold and Hassan. You would think that, and I speak from Asmongold's point of view because he's actually a sane, intellectual person versus Hassan. Even Asmongold, who constantly butts head with Hassan, has said on numerous occasions there are things that Hassan has said that he agrees with, even though he vehemently disagrees with probably the vast majority of what Hassan says. There are some things that Asmongold has freely admitted that he does agree with him about. Anybody that says, I don't agree with a single thing any person says is lying, and they have not actually heard what the person in question has said. Because there will always be at least a couple of things. Again, the broken clock being right twice a day concept. There will at least be several things that someone that you don't like, that you vehemently disagree with on a lot of what they have to say, there will at least be some things that you will agree with. So this blanket statement means he doesn't actually, he's basically working off of fifis, is like Charlie says something, has said things that I don't agree with, therefore I don't agree with anything that he said. Even though I don't actually know everything that he said, I'm just going to blanket state and say I don't agree with anything that he said. Those are the words of someone of a small, closed mind that just they're not an intelligent person. They are one track mind. They're goose stepping. They're goose stepping in like right think, and they will not go out of line, because if they go out of line, they'll be destroyed.
Oh, you think transgender surgery should be illegal?
Yes.
Okay, well, I think that's insane.
How can you find that insane? Should a child be able to get a tattoo? Well, no. Why not? Because they shouldn't be able to make irreversible decisions when their brain hasn't fully developed. Well, that's the same reasoning. It's not insane.
Okay. I wasn't sure because they just said should transgender surgeries be illegal? In regards to kids, children, sir, I'm on board. If they were gonna blanket statement, I was gonna be like, hold up, that's not necessarily someone. But for children, 100%. I think if you perform I promise. If you perform transgender surgery on a child, I'm not going to say what I think should be done, but at minimum, you should go in the box. At minimum, you go in the box if you perform transgender surgery on a child. If you basically feed into a child's mental delusion that I'm transgender, and you go whole hog and basically treat a child as transgender and give them, and alter their biology and perform surgery on them, on a child, in the box. Remove them from society and put them in the box at minimum. And this is not a question. And to anybody that's either new here or new to my videos that think, oh, I'm anti-trans. I'm not. I am very supportive of people who are trans. I am. I back up legitimate transgender people, not the SJR performatives who are basically autogynephiliacs and just, pedophiles and rapists and psychos. No, I don't back them up. I back up actual transgender people. But regardless, when it comes to children, there is no such thing as a transgender child. It doesn't exist. Flat out. Doesn't exist.
That's not hateful. Little kid.
He attacked transgenders 24/7.
That's different than saying that should transgender surgery be...
He thinks it's a mental illness.
If it's not a mental illness, why does it require medical intervention?
It's in the DSM-5. It needs to be, otherwise they can't get prescription medication.
I think there's all sorts of reasons why people could be considered mentally ill. Charlie Kirk.
The point ultimately is this. If you...
I know why he's saying this too. I know why he's saying this. He's saying that he doesn't think transgender people should be considered mentally ill because of the stigma that is levied against them because of it. And this is a generalized stigma. When you say that someone has a mental illness, there is a generalized stigma in society these days that when someone gets labeled as having a mental illness, they are basically looked at in an extreme, that they are psychopaths. You say someone has a mental illness, they immediately think to violent bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, psychopathy. They go to the extreme. Mental illness covers the term mental illness covers a very wide swath of challenges that many people contend with. It's ADHD, it's autism, it's depression, to a degree, it's bulimia. There's a physical and mental component there. There is bipolar. There's the extreme ones, but there are also the more milder ones. PTSD, that's a mental illness. You don't demonize them as being a psychopath for having PTSD. We've seen, there are content creators we love that have PTSD, and they are perfectly fine, perfectly legitimate individuals. So the tack that he's taking is by labeling a transgender person as someone that has a mental illness, is you're basically demonizing them as a psychopath, which is not the case. Do transgender people suffer from mental illness? Yes. Yes, they do. It's called body dysphoria. All legitimate, key word there, legitimate transgender individuals do suffer from body dysphoria or a variant of that. That does not make them a psychopath. That just makes them as a person who has a mental illness. And part of the treatment, if they are deemed to be legitimately transgender, part of that treatment is to undergo transition. That goes along with hormone HRT, and eventually, possibly, if it is deemed appropriate, surgery. but it is yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yes, mental illness writ large is there's a great deal of stigma that goes along with it that shouldn't be there. That it should not have that level of stigma. But again, we are living in an algorithm age where the loudest, rudest, most bombastic voices are heard the clearest in this space. And so those voices have said that mental illness should be stigmatized, that they basically like consider mental illness only to be people who are violent psychopaths. And so when someone has the label of mental illness thrust upon them, even for something as minor as mild depression, you're immediately ostracized from society. And I don't know if I want to give him credit for basically maybe trying to go that tact. I honestly don't think he's smart enough to go that tact. I think he is actually dumb enough to basically say, I don't think transgender individuals suffer from mental illness because he is that stupid and that brain broken. So I'm not going to give him the credit I'm not going to give him that credit. Just say he's an idiot.
Reasons why people could be considered mentally ill. Charlie Kirk.
The point ultimately is this. If you sit down with Charlie Kirk and ask him, do you hate anybody? No. If you ask him, should people hate others? He'd say, I hope they don't, and no, they should not. If you asked him, why do you want transgender surgery banned? He would say, because I love these people and I want them to get the help that benefits them. I disagree that this is the path towards helping them. If you ask him about the pilot situation, he'd say, I don't hate black people. I hate that they're creating a situation that creates that perception of black people. Charlie Kirk famously kicked out white identitarians and white nationalists from the events that he would hold. He would open public events, people could come up, and there's videos where a white nationalist would come up and say something, and he'd stand up and say, get out. And he got criticized for being, like, liberal for doing so. By all means, you can disagree with his fact positions.
And by the way, there's one of your criticisms for the right. Right there. You have Charlie Kirk, the champion, the saint of the right. He's kind of like achieved sainthood status with the right with his assassination. And this is where you have basically the conservative version of SJRs, where a white nationalist comes in, starts talking, and Charlie Kirk says, get the fuck out of here. Fuckity bye. And you have the conservative versions of the SJRs going, you fucking liberal, and just and demonizing him because he doesn't want to listen to actual white nationalist rhetoric. There we go. There's the perfect example.
For being, like, liberal for doing so. By all means, you can disagree with his fact positions, but the dude did not spread hate. He would sit down with anybody and have dinner with you and shake your hand with a smile and ask you, how can I help you?
I mean, you could make an argument that Charlie Kirk was actually anti-racist, more so than progressive ideology. But then Brian would claim, I'm not a progressive, I'm not a leftist, I'm not even a liberal.
Who do I cuck for? I don't cuck for the Democrats. I'm not a Democrat. In fact, I've been called a racist lately because I called out Kamala Harris, and I think we're all screwed if Kamala runs again.
I got to be honest.
Who do I cuck
Democrats are racist.
Hey, look. You know,
Yeah.
and Republicans
They are.
aren't?
I gotta give.
I've met more racist Democrats than I have Republicans.
I agree. I completely agree.
Okay.
The fact that you're being called a racist because you don't think Kamala Harris would be a good candidate, that should show you what I've been trying to articulate about how
Exactly.
this term is being thrown around. And yet,
Yes.
Brian has called me a racist so many times I've lost count.
Like my whole life.
Make
it's been
those
this-
faces, but hey, are you gonna?
I think there are
gonna say that
racists
that's not your
everywhere.
experience?
I think there are racists everywhere.
People that I've experienced racism from are people that
Gotcha.
supported people.
The one
like
party who
Kamala
says
Harris.
systemic racism doesn't exist.
excuse me, Sir Black Man, can you please defer to the white man's experience for a second?
I know
so
he's
you can-
telling me. He's telling me who I should think is racist.
The
Right?
one party that
Bingo!
says systemic racism doesn't exist.
From the
is
party that said
Republican
you
Party.
ain't black if you don't vote Democrat.
I understand the frustration around
What Tim Pool just said there is the overriding point. They're doing a discuss. They're talking about racism. A black man is trying to explain, who would be the recipient of racism over Brian Shapiro. He's trying to express something, and Brian Shapiro did what he always does and steamrolls him. talks fast, talks loud, won't let the other person get in. And I love the fact that Tim Pool called him out for being the racist piece of shit that he is, where he said, "Excuse me, Sir, Mr. Blackman, please let the white man explain your racism to you." I fucking love that.
Labels, but it's just funny when you're completely anti anything conservative and then you claim, hey, I'm not liberal though. It just doesn't add up.
It's how anybody takes Brian Shapiro seriously, I don't know. Every single clip I've ever seen of this man is literally just him doing word vomit that makes no fucking sense and paints him literally as the exact thing he claimed to supposedly rail against. Honestly, I think he is a self-hating racist and a self-hating misogynist. I really do. At this point, I'm inclined to think that he is like he is what's that? I'm losing the word. I'm losing the word based on the fact that he hates being white. I can't believe I've lost this word. But you get what I'm you get what I'm trying to say. It is he is basically a self-hating, white guilt. There you go. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah, he is basically the epitome of white guilt, and but at the same time, it is basically racist and misogynist. But he's self-hating, which supposedly makes it all better. And yeah, kind of white savior, but it's kind of white savior complex, but it's more of a white guilt complex. But that still doesn't even slow him down from being racist and misogynist. It's just, he's fucked in the head. He's absolutely fucked in the head. And that's all you need to know. Racist.